Hello, my name is Troy Adu here,
I'm Tyler Hoskins.
and you're listening to our Sick Ass podcast. Kia ora, and welcome to another guest episode of the Sick Ass podcast. Today's guest is someone so insightful for a 20-year-old, someone who has gone through a lot of reflections that I didn't actually start doing until a couple of years ago. So I know that this discussion is going to be something that I think over years will start to play out in terms of the reflections that she's been up to. She plays for the varsity rugby team, so she is a bookworm. She also represents Otago for the Spirit. And she's also represented the nation in rugby as well. So today we have Hinemoa Watene joining us today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very stoked to have you on because you're someone who, is a high caliber athlete, and you're also in a space that I have kind of advocated for a very long time. I've lived with rugby players, and also through our degree, we've been with a lot of female rugby players, and just seeing how awesome they are as individuals, but then also the community vibe that they set up. But then it's something that kind of just gets missed, and like all of the media and everything surrounding it is kind of just like, this is a population that not many people are getting exposed to. So that's something we'll get into shortly. But I mean, just more about you. You grew up in Auckland.
Yeah.
And how's that process? Because obviously you're down here in Dunedin now, but they're very different in terms of how that goes. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you grew up initially, and then, we'll get through it.
I grew up in Tamaki Makaurau. My family originally were living in South Auckland, or Papakura at the time, and my parents just worked day in and day out for us to get out of that really shifty neighbourhood to move into East Auckland. And they just keep working. Went to Howard College, really, really good school, really good environment. Just found that with the difference between Howick and Dunedin is that Howick was quite closed-minded in accepting the Māori population there. We were like one of 4 Māori that were living in there at the time, and down here it's just like real open-minded, real like lax, real chill. So like that vibe is like rubbed off on me really good. So it's just like being able to express myself and being able to be confident in who I am. So, it was just really, really cool being in Dunedin, really good upbringing that I had with my family. I've got 2 older sisters and an older brother. So, I'm the pōtiki of the family. And just moving away from home was like a huge, like, whoa, this is actually happening. Like, you're actually leaving the nest. And, my mum and dad were like crying a little bit, having a little tonguey, but, that's okay. That's part of the process, and definitely a better person for it at the moment. That's
awesome. And you brought up multiple things in terms of what your family have done for you. Just going back to your parents and what they did to actually, the first move was from one part of Auckland to the other part of Auckland. Was that something that have you ever reflected on that fact? Is the fact that you could have, like, your destiny could have been one thing if you had stayed in that one spot? Yeah, I constantly think about that. Like, even in, when I'm about to go to bed, I'm just like, wow, I'm so lucky to be here. Like, growing up in Papakura was quite hard for my parents. They're working 3 jobs, each trying to get us into a better spot because Papakura was just real dangerous for us. A lot of break-ins into our house, not really good education. It just wasn't a safe environment for us, and me being the youngest, I never really had to experience that because, I was this only little baby at the time, and my sister Rihanna just had to wear the brunt of that, had to put on that face and be more than just my older sister, but kind of like our mum in some sense, because my parents just had to work to get us out of there. And I think about how different my journey would have been if we'd stayed there. Maybe I probably would have been at university, but I don't think I would have this open-mindedness that I do have today, or this gratitude for my parents. So, and that gratitude is something that gives you a lot of drive, right, to do what you're doing. Now you moved to somewhere and you were a minority there in terms of one of 4 Māori families. Just how did that make you feel? So going through school, but also just being someone, it's really easy to feel like you are on the outside. How is it that you start cracking it? So at intermediate and just right primary school right through to high school, it was just kind of like a battle with
being the minority, I had to struggle a lot with people mispronouncing my name. So I either go Hinemoa, or like, even the worst was like Hinemoa, and I'm just, how did you get that?
I know.
But that was just like a constant battle every day, and just like to the point it became that I wasn't proud of my name.
Sure.
And I wasn't accepting that. I didn't accept that I got my name from my nana, a strong woman, and I just wasn't respecting that, and that kind of put me in a position where I was just like, nah, I need to actually regain my mana of that name, not just for me, but for my nan and for my dad. So that was like a real like kind of difficult, and like also a spot where I just had to turn a new leaf and just be like, nah, I'm just going to be proud of who I am. Being in Howick College, it was a pretty multicultural kind of area, like the school that is. We had students coming in from South Auckland, from West Auckland, you know. So you'd see people of the same colour as you, but you'd still feel that minority kind of vibe, and it just was like, whenever some teacher would see you, they would just put that stereotype of like you being lazy, of you not being a hard worker.
Sure.
So that kind of just like motivated me to not fall in line with that stereotype they had. My brother Ben, so he kind of fell into that stereotype, but it's because the teachers never really gave him much to kind of grow with.
Yeah.
So he was like my biggest rock, my biggest protector at the school. Me and him were kind of like, you know, best pals going through Howick College, and just like he would stick up for me if people were bullying me or like saying my name improperly. So so that's why I'm like really close with him. The journey through Howick was really cool. It was a really like eye-opening experience to understand that, yep, I'm a minority, but that doesn't dictate who I am as a person. Like my family just created this environment within our house where we could be who we wanted to be without having to conform to what the society was setting up.
That's so awesome. And I think that's a lesson that, you know, there's quite a few people maybe now in their 30s, 40s who are finally starting to see that. And for you to get that so young is just, you know, it sets you up a really good foundation for how it is you can progress from that point. And you kind of go through life dictating how you want it to go. And you set up your pathways for yourself, not based on what other people are trying to put on you. So was it through high school that you started playing rugby?
Yeah, so I've actually got a story behind that. My first ever like teacher / rugby whatever lady, Adelita Satutu, she just gathered all of the girls at the school, like netballers, swimmers, soccer players, touch rugby players, hockey, whatever sport you name it, and she was like, I'm entering you guys in a sevens rugby tournament and it starts on the weekend. You've got 2 days to train for it and you're just going to go out there and do it. And we're just like, oh, okay. Like, all right. And we got chucked in there and we ended up doing really well. And it was from then on that some of us were like, okay, rugby actually might be something for us to do. So that's when I first started playing rugby sevens. We went to Condors. That was like our first year that we put Howick College on the map as a rugby sevens school. The year following that, I decided that I actually wanted to drop touch rugby and drop club soccer and move to club rugby 15s. And just from then on, I played for College Rifles, and that team was where I started to learn more about myself and kind of develop my, I guess, not just rugby skills, but my life skills. I was a really shy and timid girl growing up, and just seeing people of the same background as me who pronounce my name properly, I was just like, wow, okay, I can actually be myself and grow here. So
how old do you reckon you were when when you started getting into the club and, you know, thinking 15s is going to be your sport from now?
My first ever training, I was 15 with College Rifles, and then I turned 16 probably a week after. So
you were super young, and that's I mean, you had really good role models around you. Was it age grade, or were you just playing in a women's team?
Women's
so like
team.
you were like with everyone,
just everyone, with like mums, with like some Black Ferns, with some Auckland Storm players, you know, like teachers, especially this one lady called Emma Jensen. She plays for Hawke's Bay. She's the halfback, and she's like my constant idol. She was like one of the first people that actually welcomed me into the sport and actually taught me rugby and like the basics of rugby and everything, and just like she always believed in me from the day dot and said you're gonna make it somewhere, whether that's from rugby or not. And just like whatever I do today, I dedicate that to my family, but also to the people that believed in me from the start.
Awesome.
So
yeah. When you were coming through and starting out, were you one of the younger ones, or was there like quite a few of the young people, or were you just like that one young person and then all of the women?
My little group that I like kind of just went in with, I'm known as the baby of the group, so I'm their baby. It was for probably like a good year that people my same age came through.
Right.
And they came from Howard College as well, and like Epsom girls, so just all over Auckland.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you've been playing for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still young, sorry. I'm thinking about if you were my age. But yeah, so you've been playing since, so you've had all of those different years, but you've been quite sporty up until that point. And I think there's something really quite important about being surrounded by good role models.
Yeah.
Because when you're in age grade, everyone's the same age and you're just like all as dumb as each other.
Yeah.
But then when you come in as a young person with a whole bunch of like women who have had life experience, it makes you like you grow up so much faster because you're around mature people. Did you find that?
Yeah. I found that like I was really like, I want to make it in rugby. Like rugby is path A right through to Z. Like that's where I want to be. But just having those mature people surrounding me and just like telling me like, straight up like, Hinemoa, you actually, rugby isn't your main thing. Like you should be looking at other like, life paths. And it was at that stage I was like thinking about, okay, what are actually my passions outside of sport? Because that was when I was focusing a lot of my identity around being a rugby player or around being a soccer player or around being an athlete. And having corridors with those ladies, they were like, look, I play rugby as my job, or I play rugby, but rugby is not who I am.
Sure.
And I'm a mum, or I'm a police officer, I'm a teacher. Like those are what I'm most proud about myself. And I was like, okay, so what can I do to be like that,
Yeah, that's so cool. So you're like setting up separate pathways. But so before we talk about your journey down here to Otago, you've represented so both at the provincial level when you were back home as well as nationally. Do you want to talk about, when was the first time you actually put your foot in the door of getting to like higher levels than just club?
So it was near the end of like year 12 and then year 13.
Right.
I realised that sevens could possibly be like a possibility for me because there were the youth Olympic squad.
Yep.
That was like something that I was like, cool, this is actually something I could aim for. I worked really hard, like just eat, sleep, train, repeat, just that whole cycle. And I was getting like really good feedback from my coaches saying that, people are actually interested in you. And I got invited to a New Zealand under-18s trial, and I ran one of the best Bronco times I've ever run before. And I was just like, yes. I didn't really care about if I made the team or not. I was just like, yo, I made the best Bronco time ever. I was like celebrating before, I just thought that I won that. And then we just had like a training camp, and initially I was meant to be put on as a like strike prop on the edge.
Right.
And I just hated it. I was like, nah, this is really not the tahi for me. You're not going to get the best out of me out here.
Right.
So I had a conversation with one of my coaches for the weekend, and I was like, is there any way that I could get moved closer to the action? Because that's when I can use more of my abilities. And she was like, actually, we can move you into hooker. And I was like, hooker, okay, I can do that. That's a bit closer to the action, yep. And that was the moment that I just played my best trial footy ever, and I'm really, really grateful for her to actually listen to me.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, this girl is actually coming up to me and not liking where she is at, but I know that she's got that potential. So I was just like, put my foot down, and I just kept working hard in that hooker position. And then I found out at school, I was in my PE class, it was like last period, and I got like a phone call from my coach, and he was just like, kia ora, Hinemoa. And I was like, hello. And he was like, I just want to let you know that you've made the Youth Olympic squad. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just like, I hung up on him. I didn't mean to. And I called him back. I was like, I'm sorry. I hung up. I just can't believe it. And then he was like, no, this is all good. Just look at your emails for the next coming days. And then I like had to leave the classroom. I was like, I'm sorry. I just gotta leave. That's really importantly. And I just like stood in the hallway for a bit. And I was just like standing there and I was like, wow, you did it. And I was like wow. And so then I just called my mum and I was like, Mum, she was like, what's up? And I was like, I made the team. And she was like, what team? I was like, the New Zealand team, the Youth Olympics. And she was just like, oh my gosh. And then she just started crying and then she hung up on me because she was crying way too much. And I called my dad and he was like, you almost made me crash my car. I had to pull over. He was on the motorway and I was like, why were you answering your phone then? He's like, I don't know. I just had a feeling that you had good news. And so, yeah, and I got home and like my mum, my whole family was just like crying. We were all crying together in a crying circle and it was just like, this is it. This is what what I was working for. And yeah, so that's how I got like my foot in the door, just like speaking up to my coaches and be like, this is actually not where I want to be, but I want to be in a better position because I know I can get there.
And to be someone that young who can identify that really quickly and because most people, let's just think about most people in this world, right? At least 90% of people will be in a position where they're not happy and they're not doing their best and they're not being exposed to everything that they are potentially like worth. And they don't do anything about it. Yeah, like literally your first time representing, you're just like, I want to do this, and probably because you're high off that Bronco time as well.
Yeah, that definitely was it.
But so I mean, getting chosen for that, that's huge. Like everyone. Like not many people actually get that opportunity to start to represent at a national level. But then you also, so you're actually going against other countries. We're not just playing people that you know anymore. You're playing people you've never seen. But you're on the biggest stage for a lot of the people. Like people are going to be watching you as well. And one of the biggest things that I know for a lot of people, it gets them in a way that they never ever thought would possibly get them, is the fact that when you represent the nation, you also get to sing our national anthem as well. Do you remember those vibes and what it was like the first time you stood out there and got to do that?
I do. I remember the exact weather of the day. It was like nearing like the evening period over in Australia and over in Youth Olympics, and like I was just like standing there. It was hot. We were all sweaty, and I was like next to my sisters, and I was just like taking like really deep breaths. I just like. And then I just heard our national anthem come over and I just like, didn't know what came over me. I was just like, why am I all of a sudden like crying as much as I was sweating? I was just like, all these emotions just pouring out of me. And I looked over to the stands and I saw like my family just standing there. And I was just like, yep, this is it. This is the pinnacle of what I'm feeling at the moment. This is like the physical embodiment of why I'm here. And just like having mum and dad and my brother come over to Argentina with me was just like so unreal, just such an unreal experience. And just that first time singing your national anthem in the black jersey, especially coinciding with how much passion and determination you put to get there, it was just like, wow, like undescribable. Even in this moment I still get like goosebumps thinking about it. Because that's everything that most people would put a lot of time into just to get that one moment, and you got to do it like and represent at a tournament and win overall as well. So that's even another feeling that probably you still are like trying to get under control as well. That's amazing. So I mean that was, so we'll talk about travel for a bit, because I know like so we were going to talk about going to Auckland to Dunedin, but now we've gone over to Argentina. But you got to travel over there. Had you traveled prior to that point? If going to Australia counts, then but no.
So you got to experience multiple things at once. So as well as representing the nation, you got to do a bit of travel as well. Well, it's just so lucky.
I sometimes pinch myself thinking that I've been to those countries. My dad and mum, like they sum them up quite perfectly. They're just like, wow, like not only have you taken us on a really emotional, physically draining journey, as much as draining to our bank account, but you've actually shown us the world, and they're like, we're really grateful for you to do that for us, because we would have never done that ourselves. And just being like given that opportunity to actually show my family the rest of the world is just like real cool. Prior to like the Youth Olympics, I went to America and Canada with like just like this little rugby sevens team, and that was like the first taste of going abroad with rugby. And then I went to Australia, and then to Argentina. Argentina was amazing. Definitely recommend. Such a huge like country, but just like really, really good values. Like they really value connecting with people. They really value being proud of their culture, and like in some ways it's like quite similar to the home vibes.
Sure.
Like they're just really proud of their culture, really proud of who they are, and just real friendly, really down to earth. So like, yeah, that was a really, really cool experience, yeah. And
then so, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and we are talking about your tattoo that you have, and you were talking about the meaning behind that, and a lot of it, you know, apparently you have like a travelling soul about you. I mean, that was stuff that came as a byproduct of you being a really good footy player, that you got to travel. Yeah. But then you said also like something about you, like you reflect and kind of emit traveling vibes. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So like my parents have always seen me as somebody that's not going to be a homebody. They knew that from apparently the moment that I was born. They knew that, all of us were off to do great things. All of my siblings are off to do great things, live our best lives and go on our own journeys. But they knew for me that I wasn't going to be at home when I finished college. And one of the presents my parents actually gave me was my taumoko for my 18th birthday, and me and my mum got it done at the same time, and she's got part of what I carry on my legs on her shoulder. And I found that like really, really both spiritually and emotionally binding to my mum, because I know that wherever I am and wherever she is, we will always be connected.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my taumoko just basically signifies my whakapapa, my dad's side, so Ngāpuhi, and then my mum's side, Rongo Whakata. Two really dominant, very, very strong iwis coming together to create me and my siblings. I have my siblings on the side as well, because they're my best friends. They've been there through me through thick and thin, so they're on my legs as well as like as well as like what my future entails. And the reason why I got on my legs is because they're the strongest point of my body. And it's because like wherever I am, whoever I'm talking to and whoever I'm interacting with, I know that I've got their support. I know that I can stay strong to my values and stay strong to who I am. And it also helps me just be a better person, because I know that if I do say something that is mean, it's like basically tarnishing what that taumoko represents and what my parents raised me up with. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. And you always have someone there reminding you of who you want to be, the values that you are meant to be showing. And when you don't have that, you know, it's something that you can reflect on with yourself, but then knowing that you're reflecting with your whānau and that you carry with you as well. That's very beautiful. And I think the traveling aspect of it as well kind of, it works in really nice with the fact that you had to leave home to come down to somewhere so far away. Like if you wanted to choose a uni in New Zealand, you choose the one that is like the furthest away, all the way down here in Otago. So that brings us to a nice spot. You chose to study, you come down here to Otago, and what did you get into for your course?
So I'm currently doing sports development and management and psychology, and I'm here for like another 2 years, so my total degree is like 4 years. I knew since like year 13 that I wanted to be a sports psych. I love the mental health side of things, and I think that it's really important. But yeah, I'm starting to become that, and just seeing how it works with rugby, and just seeing more about who I am as a person away from home.
You learn so much about yourself, and it's not just how smart you are depending on like how you study and stuff. But this is the first time you've been away from home. You have to learn how to pay like bills. You have to learn how to cook. All of those different things that you're just like, I thought I just came here to study, but like you've done a total shift in what your life actually looks like. For the things that you are studying, though, this is kind of setting you up for what you were talking about before, how your identity isn't your rugby, and you're doing other stuff. Do you reckon you're having a good crack at uni and you're enjoying it, or is it a bit of a slog?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's not high school.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy what I do.
That's awesome.
If I didn't, I definitely would have changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm loving it. I'm loving learning about what's out there and what is the current knowledge within psychology and sports development and management. That's a mouthful to say, but yeah, it's just real cool, and just having the people, like the knowledge of our lecturers just blows my mind every day. It's just like, this is what they specialize in. It's just like, I'm so grateful to actually be able to be in the same room as you and actually learn off you. It's just unreal. It's
such a mature way to think about it. I know like a lot of my friends, when we were coming through, I mean, there were people who saw these like, oh, they're so smart, I'm so lucky to be learning from them. And they're like, oh, they're too smart, they talk too much jibber. But you're at that stage where you're wanting to learn, and that's what I keep saying, is that you're very mature for, you're only 20, and the way that you think about the world is just so like, you are expansive in your knowledge and how you want to attack the world, which I think is just so cool. And I think it's going to help you, especially if you're talking about mental health, and you're talking about building up proper mental fortitude. You need to be open-minded for those sorts of things. So like, you've already got the foundation, and I put that down to, as we've been talking about, pretty much everyone that's been involved with your journey up to this point. So I mean, speaking about building resilience, the thing that tests resilience a lot, especially for athletes, is injury.
Yeah.
Now, we were having a little discussion about this before, and I was like, girl, you better watch it. So just talk us through your injury, or how many injuries you've had on this one particular place, and then we'll go through the process of that.
Yeah. So since coming down to like Dunedin, I only really had one significant injury in my whole entire athlete career, and that was my MCL on my right knee. And as I've been down here, I've done that an extra 2 times.
And you've been here 2 years?
Yep.
Oh, goodness me.
Yep. That mental battle, when I first did it, I was just like, oh, no. Yeah. Here goes my career, here goes my life, here goes rugby. I'm never going to make it out of this. And that was like really challenging. It was a really dark point. Last year, but the support that I had and the people that were like, constantly not saying nagging, but constantly messaging me, being like, Hine, are you okay? Do you want to go out for coffee? Do you want to go out for a cup of tea? Or just want to go out for a corridor? And just like, I just feel like a really huge like important thing that we need to take out of like injuries is not that it's a negative thing, but like, it's an opportunity for you to find out more about how you cope with things that aren't good. Yeah. When I did it this year, it was equally as bad, maybe a little bit worse. It got me in a really, really dark spot. I was working really, really hard during lockdown. Yep. And I was just like, pumping out fitness, doing heaps of running blocks, and I was just like feeling at the prime of my fitness, and got back down here, got into like my first ever contact training, and then did a really, really bad sidestep, and it just went again. After that, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I've been injured for like the past 2 years, haven't really recovered from it. And it just took me down this path where I was like questioning whether or not I should continue playing rugby, questioning whether I should continue actually doing anything to do with sports. Especially if it was like putting my body on the line all the time. I guess the stuff that I really thought about was why I was wanting to do rugby, and going back to like the people that believed in me from the start, going back to my parents, going back to Adelita Saturu from Howard College, going back to why I love rugby. Is just like, I have too many whys to say no, just stop from playing rugby. Yeah, it's so cool. Just with that, what were the main things you saw in yourself where you're just like,
every time I get into a semi-dark space, this is the first thing that tends to happen. And then how is it that you're starting to correct those things? If you like have had a good reflection on that.
I noticed that a lot of negative thoughts cross my mind, especially a lot of like negative self-talk. When I did my injury this year, I just, sulked off to the sideline, I was like a big ass tangi weto, crying about it, trying to make everyone feel sorry about myself. But, I got over that little hump, and it was just like, yeah, you're injured, but you can still carry on. And one of the things that I actually learnt from my brother was that to write it down on a piece of paper what you were feeling. One of the things that would constantly go through my mind was like, you suck, or like, you're worthless. And he was like, okay, cool, you've put that down there, now look at it. Turn to the other side and write down the opposite of those things. And I did that, and then it's like, cool, now I just want you to crumple that piece of paper, throw it in the trash bin, because what you think about yourself shouldn't determine how you act as a person, how you get through your injuries. Like, he was like, you're a really good person, whether or not you're on that rugby field. You just need to remember that. You need to remember that you've got a really good family behind you that's backing you in everything that you do, and rugby is not who you are as a person. Yeah. So yeah.
And you're believing that now?
Yeah. Damn right.
Because it is really easy. It's so much easier to say a whole bunch of bad things about yourself than it is to acknowledge the fact that you're actually really good. Yeah. And I mean, because everyone else out there is saying the good things about you. Yeah. Well, most of the people who matter. Yeah. The people who aren't saying those things, you throw them in the trash as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, because there are so many different people that you're doing it for. Like, this is when you have to think beyond yourself and just be like, this isn't just for me. Yeah. And you're studying as well, and if things did go, so if you look on the worst side ever is that you couldn't play sport again, you have so many other things going on for yourself as well. But sport is also awesome, and I mean, lockdown itself was it's a hard time. Yeah. And what sounds like it got you through that was the fact that you had purpose in a lot of the training you were doing, and then unfortunately came back and did that step, probably whacked too hard or something.
Broke my own ankle.
Cool. So you're coming into, so you actually were fortunate then that after the season you came right. Did you played in the final, right?
No,
you didn't even play in the final.
No.
Okay, unfortunately, we'll cut that part.
But we
won. Yeah. So you were part of the winning team, but you were fortunate to be back into the Otago Spirit.
Yeah.
You guys are playing at the moment, so I think by the time this comes out, you might be towards the end of the season. With that, how has that been for you? Because I know sometimes it's really easy to get that imposter syndrome. I haven't played in the season, and now I'm playing at the representative level. Yeah. Did that ever cross your mind, or were you pretty determined to just make it happen?
No, that did cross my mind. My first game back was like a pre-season game, and then my first proper game back was against Hawke's Bay.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to play rugby anymore. I was like in the warm-up, I was like, how do you catch a ball? What? Like, I didn't know. I was just like really worried that I was going to do my knee again. And I was just getting really flustered, and I just got caught up in my own thoughts. And they were just racing. And then by the time that I managed to calm those down, I was like, oh, we're actually playing a rugby game now. I was like, oh my gosh, it's half time. Like, it just got to the point where it's like far too late. And it wasn't one of my best performances for sure, but it was like a really good point in that kind of recovery process from my MCL injury to realize that it's okay. Yep, you performed really badly, but that's not the end of the world. Like, there's still a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
And you were talking before this, that part of your training, so you guys obviously do all the physical stuff. The physical stuff is pretty much like everyone's going to be doing that, like across the board. But you get a little bit into the mindset things that you're going to. So you do reflections, you do blocks and all of that. What have been the biggest things that you've tried to focus on in terms of like reflections and whatnot? Yeah.
So two of the things that we really focus on are like setting realistic goals, and also around that, an aspect that I would love to focus on is what am I going to do for myself, and as well as like my mental health. the goals that we focus around are like being like physical skills, technical skills in our game, tactical skills, mental, nutritional, etc. But I love to just focus on my mental aspect and what I can do for myself. Those two goals for mental health was to be a bit more positive towards myself, so positive self-talk. Like if I make a mistake, just be like, oh, that's okay. That's all right. Everyone makes mistakes. And just like not putting myself down like what I would do probably last year where I would put myself down. That's a constant like work on for me, just to keep being positive towards myself, because then that energy radiates the rest of my team.
True.
One of the things that I love to do for myself is to just go on a walk and just be mindful and appreciative of who I am as a person, because it's like, who else is going to have your back more than yourself? Yeah. And so those two really cross over, like mental health and what I'm going to do for myself really cross over quite well. So it's just like this journey that I'm experiencing now with Spirit is more about learning more about who I am and what my mental capabilities are and how I can stretch those to become a better person, on and off the rugby field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find that you're easily starting to pick out when you're getting down on yourself now? Yeah,
definitely. In all walks of life, whether that's this like school or like interacting with other people or like even, job interviews, like, anything to do with socializing or anything to do with comparing myself against somebody else. I realised that I do need to take that step back and just like, take a breath and just be like, okay, look at what you've achieved, look at where you've come from, remember what you're doing, who you're doing it for, and just back yourself,
Yeah. I mean, when we think about the game, we'll think about like that mental health stuff, and then we'll think about, you being down on yourself, and you think about how fast-paced like any sport game is.
Yeah.
If you like get down on yourself for almost like a split second, say you knock it on, you're down, your head goes down, posture goes, the ball's there, and then like there's 10 meters the other way because you were too busy thinking, oh, I suck.
Yeah.
Whereas like the game keeps going, and life keeps going on as well. And the longer you're too busy like having a pity party, that's like time that you will never get back to make things better. Yeah, no. Are you sure you're in 20?
Yeah, I'm in 20.
But for this, so when you go forward, a big thing that does help as well is having a really good community around you. So you talked about your team multiple times, but where do you think, so when you're in your prime and you're feeling like things are going well, what is your skill that you bring to this team to complete the community? What do you think? So when people are like, oh, Hinemoa's here, this is happening.
I am known as like the calm person.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like, how are you so calm? Like, why aren't you stressed out? And I guess like that's something that I have learned through my parents. It's like there's no point in being too anxious about something. Like, just be calm, because that's when you can make better decisions. Absolutely. And I really am quite proud of myself with that skill, not to, showboat or anything, but I know that I'm a calm person. When I bring that calmness to the field, then that allows everybody to just take that deep breath in and just like release all this like, tension that they're feeling. Just be like, okay, let's think about what we're doing, and like, let's just start playing as a team and not as people going against each other. We should be going against the other team, not within ourselves. So, yeah. Yeah.
So that's your thing. You're really good at just bringing the calm presence to everyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so vital that there is, like, you can have the hype up person, all of these different people who can like raise the bar and bring a lot of energy, but then when that goes negative, like, what are you doing to start bringing it down? And like, okay, we're fine. Let's not get angry. So I mean, it's a vital position to have within a team, and then just with your team and how you are progressing through the season. Has there been anything with like some of the newer people that are coming in? Because I mean, you're still relatively new to the team, but you were in last year as well. Yeah. So there are some people coming in for the first time. When they come in and they're fresh to the team, do you notice that they bring other things with them that you're like, oh,
definitely,
awesome.
Definitely. Everybody has something to contribute to the team environment. A lot of our youngins, they are quite shy, but you can just see as the season progressed, like just how much potential they have, and that's just an exciting prospect. Like some of our younger girls, they are like the comedians, or like, you know, that they love to just make jokes about everybody, or, you know, they just bring this like different energy, and it's just like energy that we do need, because it's like there's always room for new people to just come into the space and just like change the dynamics of the team in a positive light. So that's what they bring. Yeah,
and that's nice. And when you can see the strengths of everyone, like nothing can really go wrong, because you don't change the strengths of people to fit the team. You just change the dynamic of the team to fit the strengths. Because every single person on that field has a part to play. Exactly. And if they don't feel like, if we go back almost to your very first time where they tried to chuck you at prop, where you're just like, I don't feel good here. You're not going to do anything good in that. Oh, that is unreal. So just in terms of time, so we have to get into the last point, which is a tangible takeaway. So you've already said that you go for walks, but there might be something else that you do. What is something that you do close to daily that is almost part of your routine that you feel like optimizes you as a person?
So my nana, she was really into like puzzles.
Ooh.
And I grew up around puzzles, especially Sudoku. And I do at least 3 Sudoku puzzles per day, and that really like gets me just really calm, and just like really gets my brain ticking over, and just like releases everything from my mind. And I do one when I wake up, around lunchtime, and before I go to bed. So yeah, that's like something that I've just like picked up off my nan, and it's just really helped with me, because it just clears all my thoughts. Yeah. You
were the first person to ever say, I do a puzzle or a Sudoku or something. How long do you think you've been doing that for?
Probably since I was 7 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. When she was around, we used to trade puzzle books all the time, and we used to have a battle with each other to see who could complete the book the fastest. And I would say that I thought that I would win, but she would just complete one and then get a new one before I could even see it. So then she would just be like, oh yeah, you bet me more cool. But really, she bet me.
So even now, close to daily, that's what you do?
Yep. Yeah, I do 3 Sudoku puzzles per day.
What? Oh my gosh! I just can't even understand the thought process. I mean, because like that is something to sit down and be able to tangibly do, right?
Yeah.
So some people like to write things out, some people like to think things through, but you just slowly go away. Do you? Wow. Because I'm thinking about meditation, right? The purpose of meditation is to be mindful of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about now with Sudoku, all you can focus on is like putting in the numbers in that, so you can't really distract yourself with anything. How long do you reckon it takes you though?
It depends on the difficulty.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, goes from like beginner to like expert. I try to get like beginner when I wake up, because it's like
just something enough, get it flowing.
Yeah, and then like kind of build up throughout the day, and then expert before I go to bed. So yeah.
So like, wait, so if we're going expert and say it's before bed, how long do you reckon it's going to take you?
Oh, that's a hard one.
On average.
Oh, maybe like 4 or 5 minutes.
Goodness gracious. All right. Okay. Well, there we go. We'll get a new video up of Hinemoa doing some Sudoku, and we'll sell that to the Patreon or whatever. No, that's been amazing. Is there anything else that you want to just get out there for people who are listening? Because I know that I know you're so young, but a lot of the stuff that you do and in the positions that you're in, you're going to inevitably be a role model for a lot of people. What is something that you would say? So say you could go back, I mean, you've had a really good upbringing in terms of having good role models for yourself, but what is something that if you could go back and tell like even younger Hinemoa before you got into the circles that you were in, what would you have told yourself?
Just to keep going.
Yeah.
It's like, don't drop your head. My dad has like this Māori whakatoki that he gave me, that he told me in like high school, and it was o kia ururoatia, which means to don't die like an octopus but fight like a shark. And that's just to keep being tenacious in your pursuits. And yeah, that's what I would say to myself, like if I was getting bullied or ridiculed, just keep going, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what.
And it ties into, you know, knowing yourself really, really well, and just knowing that you have all of these different strengths and that no one else can kind of derail you from that point. Hinemoa, it has been an honour to have you on. Thank you so much for your discussion. I know everyone will take plenty away from this one. I was just sitting here in awe, not only of just the Sudoku stuff, but then also, you know, just how important it is for environments to be good, but then beyond the environment, you have to be good to yourself and being able to do all of those things. So yeah, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for coming on, and all the best for the rest of your season, and hopefully we can catch up shortly.